Hey everyone, welcome to training 6 of Monetization May. This is the final publishing training for week 2. I'm really excited about today's topic. We're going to be talking all about why you can't DIY your way through the publishing steps. So this is specifically for people who are self-publishing more than traditionally publishing, but if you are traditionally publishing, you may get some things out of this too. However, you're probably going to have a lot of support behind you, so you may not get as much out of this. So if you're self-publishing, you may be thinking to yourself if you're starting out, you know what, I can figure this out as I go, I'll make mistakes and it'll be fine. You know, I do believe in taking action before you know all the stuff and not getting stuck in your fear, 100%. I also believe in knowing what you're doing, especially when it comes to this particular thing, right? So like, obviously there are things you can learn as you go. This is not one I'd recommend because launching and publishing as it works together is a process. And more so than it being a process, it's a business model, right? And so the reason that publishers launch books is because it is the business model that they work on. And what you are essentially doing, because this is how, you know, people make book sales, you essentially need to replicate this book model for yourself. And it's not exactly something you can afford to miss pieces of, right? The other thing to look at here is that this is your main income stream. You launching and getting it consistent and regular and getting enough people to buy your books every year that you can generate some form of sustainable income is going to be such an advantageous thing for you in building your author brand and scaling it and monetizing it, right? And so you really can't afford to fuck this up. You don't want to mess with this one. You really don't. And so the thing is that, like, not to put so much pressure on you here, by the way, but I'm just saying it's really important. You know, if you don't know what you're doing, this is the one thing I'd really recommend learning and learning well. Because once you master this, you have something that will always bring you revenue for the entire duration of your author career. But if you're wasting years trying to figure it out yourself, you're missing so many opportunities to monetize your books, to get income coming in that's going to help you grow. And you're going to have to go ahead and fix up so much stuff later. It's just going to take you so much longer to get where you want to go. And when you have the option to learn from someone directly and not have to go through that, why would you not, right? Especially when this is going to give you a direct return on investment if you do it properly, right? And so, let's talk about this. I have an analogy for you today. It's kind of an interesting one, which is, I hope it's just going to help put this into perspective for you. So, like, before we get into that, I see a lot of clients. I often see a lot of clients, or like, you know, just people publishing in the online space, and it takes them so much longer to kind of get to where they could have been sooner. Like, building their readership, getting their books to sell. Like, it just takes them so much longer than it could have because they miss so many steps along the way of their launch journey. You know, just recently, I remember encountering someone who, like, skipped a whole step. Like, I think, what did they skip? I think they skipped their cover reveal and tried to jump straight to art. And it just wasn't the right timing to be putting some marketing actions into play. And so they had to do all this backtracking work, and they had to, you know, fix up their marketing strategy and rebuild their, like, re-warm up their audience. And then it just set their launch back, right? And that means that they're setting back how fast they're going to make a return on investment. It's setting back all their future books. It really has a domino effect on how your author career goes, right? Especially when you are trying to take it seriously, you are trying to make the right investments, you really want it to pay off, right? And so the analogy I have to share with you today kind of demonstrates how this works. So, a bit of a fun story for you. What was it, last month? I think it was last month. I went to visit my friend in the city, and she lives about 3 hours away. And I don't live in a city, and I don't like driving in the city because it stresses me out. I hate it. I really, really can't deal with it. But I went there anyway, and I always need a GPS because I don't know where I'm going. So I had my GPS, and I was driving, and I got there just as it was getting dark. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to get there because I really don't want to drive in the dark. And I got like near her house, and then like got to the roads where I get lost. And the GPS started playing up on me, and it started giving me the previous direction. So it would tell me, like, turn right here, but they meant for, like, the previous street that I had to turn at, and I would think it was for the next street. And so that kept happening, and then it kept making that noise of, like, ooh, you missed the direction. And I was like, what is going on? It keeps, like, I keep taking the right turn and it keeps telling me. I was so confused that I actually thought I'd gotten my left and right mixed up, and I was like so disorientated as I was driving, stressed as heck because I'm in the city, and it was getting dark. And it was like the most stressful experience of my life. I was just so close to tears by the end of it. I was trying to look for a place to park thinking, how the heck am I going to find this place? Like, I have no idea what my GPS is doing. And I was driving in circles for about an hour before I finally found a place to pull up and properly look at my GPS and figure out where the heck I was. And I was like so discouraged by that whole experience. I just never wanted to drive in a city ever again. I've done it plenty of times, but I was just so over it by that point. I was like, I just never want to get in the car again. And I eventually made it to my friend's house and told her what happened. She thought I died in a car crash because I took so long to get there. And like, I was just not having it. So I was like, I'm just gonna like never think about driving again. The next day, I forced myself to get into my car to prove to myself that I could drive in the city and it was not a big deal because I kind of had to get home in the day after. So I did go for a drive and it turned out to be fine, right? But here's why it was actually fine. Because I had my friend in the car with me and she knew the roads and she was better than a GPS because she knew the turning lanes and all that. So like, not only was she guiding me in the moment, but she was also helping me like if I needed to be 3 lanes across, she would tell me, hey, get into this lane now so that you can make it, because that's not something my GPS does. My GPS tells me when I'm like needing to take the turn, and like, why didn't you tell me this sooner? So that's really helpful, right? Because she knows the roads, she knows what to expect, she can see 3 steps ahead, and if I ever took the wrong turn, she would tell me immediately and tell me how to correct it, right? Instead of me driving around trying to figure out what I'd done wrong. This is what it's like when you have a coach, right? Because if you're trying to self-publish and you've never done it before, or you have very little experience and you mess up, if you miss a step, if you miss a step on the process of the launch journey, or if you do something slightly wrong, you have so much work to then fix that mistake so that you have a successful launch, right? It's such a big deal. And so if you are making these mistakes constantly and you're constantly having to try and retrack your steps and figure out where you were meant to turn or what you were meant to do, that is exactly what it's like. It's like me being lost in that city, not knowing what the heck I'm doing. That is what it's like. If you have a coach who can immediately point out to you, hey, you did this wrong, or hey, you're about to frick this up, here's what you do instead, here's where you need to turn, you need to be prepared in this way for this next step, that's going to serve you so much better. You're definitely going to get to your destination faster. You're definitely going to see the results you want. You're going to have such a smooth experience doing it. It is so worth it to have a coach guiding you through the publishing process. And that is exactly why, right? So I hope that analogy helped you. I hope it kind of makes sense there as to why you need a coach. But this is exactly it. And like, seriously, even if you, because like I said, this is just for launching, and once you have the launch process down, you can scale, you can build up your income, you can do all kinds of things. You know, if you are new to launching and you really have no idea what you're doing, just getting a coach for the first time you launch a book is going to make such a world of difference, you know, compared to not doing it and like doing it all yourself, right? Because even from having a coach for the first time you do it, you're going to know so much. And you're never going to make any of those mistakes. You're going to be so set up from book 1 to be doing it effectively and well. It's just going to serve you for so many future books that you put out there that are going to bring you a return on investment for having made that one investment in a coach the first time, right? And so that is just something I wanted to share with you today around why you probably shouldn't DIY your way through the launch process, because I tell you, if you miss a step, it's just such a headache, right? And it's one of those really important things. Like, even with marketing, you can kind of wing marketing, you can kind of learn that as you go. Even with writing, there are things you can learn as you go because you're always improving as a writer. But when it comes to launching, it's just one thing I would really say is a non-negotiable, to just get right and to just learn properly. And I say that, you know, from experience, because I have messed up launches in the past. I have done the thing wrong. I have lived through the devastation of not having people read my book and not making book sales and having spent all this money and having it not pay off. It's like a really frustrating place to be in. It was really discouraging doing it over and over, trying to figure out what I was doing wrong, right? And so I really encourage it, and I know I've said that a million times in this video, but hopefully that makes sense. So I won't harp on about it anymore, but if you are planning to launch a book in the next 6 to 12 months and you'd like some support in doing it, reach out to me and we can chat about what the best option is to get you some support depending on your timeline. It really depends on your timeline as to whether an intensive is better or actually a one-on-one package. But I will be honest with you about which one I think is better and why. And definitely reach out to me if you want some help. And that is all for this video. And next week we're going to talk about marketing. So I'm really excited about that. I hope you catch me for the next final 3 trainings, and I will chat to you in those ones. Bye.